It's strange looking back how much pressure was riding on a bunch of 10-year-olds in windbreakers, chasing international criminals, parsing cryptic clues, racing against the clock in a high-stakes UX puzzle disguised as a PBS game show. But here's the twist. Where in the World Is Carmen Sandiego wasn't just a game, it was design school. And if you grew up watching it, you were learning how to think like a designer, long before you ever heard the word design used that way. Let's start with the obvious. Carmen Sandiego was an interactive system, not in the digital sense. There was no touchscreen, no controller, but everything about the show was designed like a user flow. You were given a goal, catch the thief. You were presented with constraints, time limits, limited information. You navigated clues that were purposefully ambiguous, clues that forced you to deduce, infer, hypothesize. In UX, we call this progressive disclosure, the principle of revealing only the information needed at the moment it's needed. Carmen Sandiego didn't overwhelm you with a map of the world and a list of 200 flags. It gave you just enough to feel curious, just enough to move forward. It taught you to test and iterate, try a location, see what happens, course correct, fail forward. That's design thinking in a trench coat. Each clue in the show was a kind of UX pattern, a recognizable unit of meaning that appeared in a familiar format. A pun about currency? That's finance. A cultural reference about samba or fado? You're headed to Brazil or Portugal. A visual of a flag with a red maple leaf? Case closed. These weren't just trivia facts, they were design cues. Signals embedded in context that rewarded the viewer for pattern recognition. Designers call this affordance. An affordance is a clue about how something can be used. The clues afforded an action. Move here, guess that, follow this lead. The same way a button affords clicking or a handle affords pulling. But the most brilliant design element of Carmen Sandiego, it trusted you to live in uncertainty. Most educational tools aimed for clarity. Carmen embraced ambiguity. It never told you if you were right until after you committed. You had to guess. You had to be wrong. It normalized not knowing and taught you that the only way forward was to try something anyway. That's an incredibly powerful and rare UX lesson. Most software tries to remove friction. Carmen taught you to work with it. In fact, the entire structure of the show mirrors a design sprint. Define the problem. A thief is loose. Gather insights from witnesses, clues, the chief. Generate ideas. Maybe she went to Istanbul? Test the hypothesis. Buzz in. Make the move. And learn from feedback. Wrong country? Try again. On a deeper level, Carmen Sandiego was teaching systems thinking. You weren't just guessing random countries, you were navigating networks, how economies relate, how languages spread, how cities connected via trade, or culture, or history. Each location was part of a larger system, and the villain's movement through that system created a pattern you could trace. That's the same mindset designers use when mapping user journeys, or designing information architecture. You start seeing the connections between things, not just the things themselves. It's not, what is this country? It's, how does this country relate to the last one? It's not, what does this screen do? It's, how does this screen connect to the next? And then there's the vibe. Carmen Sandiego was cool. She was elusive, stylish, brilliant, and so were you, by proxy, if you were smart enough to keep up. The show didn't just teach you facts, it gave you identity. You weren't a student, you were a detective. It didn't just test your knowledge, it rewarded your way of thinking. And that's the secret. Carmen Sandiego wasn't building a smarter kid, it was building a kid who could live with ambiguity, recognize patterns, work within constraints, follow systems, iterate, stay curious. That's not geography, that's UX. Carmen almost always got away in the end, and maybe that's the most honest part of the whole show. The idea that the world isn't something you can solve. It's something you chase, explore, learn from, get a little closer to, again and again, which if you think about it, is the designer's journey too. You never really catch perfect design. You just follow the clues and try to get a little closer.